Jess Fenech.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
No, thank you for having me in class this morning. It was epic.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining me on this lounge, of which I'm sure you hang around on from time to time.
It's a pretty comfy lounge.
That's what everybody
It's
says.
a pretty comfy lounge if you haven't had a minute.
That's what everybody says. Super excited to talk to you. Firstly, your bubbly, vibrant energy is amazing.
Thank you.
Every time I see a photo of you that's come from the studio, you got this grin on your face, you got this little cheekiness about you. And my question for you is, like, where do you think that comes from?
I've always been a little bit of a performer.
Yeah.
I've always had a little bit of a spring in my step. I think that we've really got to try to find positive in just the situation around us and make the most of that. So I guess it hasn't always been like that. I've had my waves of, super bubbly and super energetic, and waves of not so much, and waves of, a bit of depression, anxiety, and all of those things. And the yoga practice is one of those places that keeps bringing me back up and keeps regulating me. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
Because that's what it does for me.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you touched on that. Peeps out there, for those of you who haven't met Jess, the amazing Jess Fenech, yoga teacher,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Now, I cheekily classified you as GM of a yoga studio.
Yeah.
Sort of, that's your role, but not technically. What is your role with Flow Athletic?
So I look after front of house. I look after a bit of the back end of the systems.
Yep.
I dabble in member onboarding. I do a little bit of just, making sure that the studio looks good and tidy. And so dabble in a little bit of just the daily runnings of it all. So,
and from my understanding, you were a pivotal role in like the setup of that business. You've been with them for 10 years, right?
been with them for 10 years.
Yeah, cool.
I basically bullied them into giving me a job.
Yeah, I'm the person that you want.
They didn't have a role for me.
Okay.
They were only just opening up. They were a brand new studio, hadn't even got the fit out yet. And I was like, oh, you're new, you're going to need a receptionist.
Yep.
And basically started from there.
Cool.
Started reception, helped out with the back of house, and just kind of went from there.
I love that. So we're gonna dive a lot into that today about the career path of yoga, like wellness, that sort of stuff, and a topic that's close to my heart, exciting for me, is the building of a business, the setting up and effectively setting up a business. I want to dive into that stuff with you. You are recently engaged. I want to dive into a little bit of relationship stuff with you. I think there's some interesting components to your relationship on a surface level, and I want to know more about that. Let's start. I want to start from the start. Jess Fenech, Maltese background.
Yeah.
Any relation to Jeff Fenech?
No.
Damn it. Okay. Mario Fenech.
No, I think Ancestry.com says that there's some distant related, but look, all Maltese are probably related at some point. It's a small island.
Malta's small, isn't it?
It's a tiny island.
I watched a doco on Malta last year sometime.
Yeah.
I did not realise how small it is, and the place that I go to is, how is there so many Maltese people in Australia, considering Malta itself is like this,
tiny,
in a place that's like the world that's like this?
Because everyone has 4 or 5 siblings.
Right.
And then everyone else has however many siblings.
So there's high production levels around Malta.
Yeah, really fertile race.
Not much else to do.
You're right. It's sunny, it's warm, you're having a wine,
Yes.
you have good food, food.
I love it.
Living the good life, I suppose.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you've been here all your life, yeah?
I've lived here all my life.
And where did you grow up?
Just around the corner.
You're in Campbelltown now?
Yeah.
And it's always been Campbelltown?
Yeah, I grew up in Campbelltown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Scrambletown?
Yep.
Yep.
Born and bred. Moved out when I was 19. Moved into the city. Actually moved up to Queensland for a little while. Did some time on the Whitsundays, and which is pretty cool.
Yes.
And then moved back into the city. Stayed there until probably about 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And then we moved back.
Yeah, because you were you in there when you started with One Big Heart?
Yeah.
Or you started here because you moved back?
I moved back.
It's all transitional. It's all happening at the same time sort of thing.
I moved back and was hunting for a yoga studio to practice. And then...
And I went, pick me! Pick me!
I asked a couple of people around, they're like, where's good to practice in the Macarthur area? Where's good to practice? And One Big Heart kept popping up, One Big Heart. And
love it.
So I came in to practice and was like, here it is. Here's a little slice of what I remember. The city, here's like good quality teachers, good quality practice, great studio. And then was like, hey Carl, can I come and teach? I'll come and be on your covers list. And then here I am.
And you were just like, bang,
Straight in.
there.
Yeah.
Mad. All right. And so then, okay, with this whole starting at Flow, like obviously yoga was already around for you.
Yeah.
So what was life like growing up as a kid in Campbelltown, first of all?
I was a little bit of an outcast.
Yep.
I was a little bit of growing up when I was in earlier years was just like a little kid doing dancing, and that was fun. I was just doing dance classes, Stedfords, and all of that was really fun.
Did you rock a Stedford?
I did do rock a Stedford.
Oh, so did I.
Did rock a Stedford. My parents were so good. They're so great to me. They take me out to other Stedfords every weekend. That was all really lovely. But yeah, in high school, I guess I become a bit of a muso and was just a bit quirky and a bit different, and had my little crew. And then
Favourite band from high school then?
Killing Heidi, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
100% Killing Heidi.
Yeah, right.
No doubt about it.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, you seem very certain about that.
100%.
So did dancing take you to yoga?
Dancing took me to yoga.
Yeah.
But not before music. So dancing led me to music, that then led me to yoga.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Talk to me more about that.
So I was a dancer.
We got that bit.
Got that bit.
Yeah.
So then I got to about 14 where body image became a lot more of a part of my life.
Doesn't it, man?
Yeah.
Fucking body image.
And I've never been the skinniest. I've never been super, it's just, bony and curvy. That's just how I am. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, you just get a little bit, you get conscious about it. And so I then started listening to Killing Heidi.
Yes.
And it was all very angsty, all very travel your own path, do your own thing, strong, you've got this, doesn't matter if you're different to others. And I was like, yeah, that's right, I am, and that's okay. And then, so I could feel, in hindsight, it was a really interesting observation for someone so young. I was like, if I stay going down this path of dancing, if I was going to continue this way, I probably will end up with not a great relationship to my body or food.
Yep.
And
big problems in the industry. Yeah, big problems in the industry.
And I love, to this day, I love to move my body and I love to dance. And,
yeah.
Anyone that's come to a flow class of mine will probably feel a little bit of that in my practices, in my classes.
Yep.
But yes, then I was like, I'm going to be a bit of a grunge chick. And I went and learned how to play the drums and was in a band for a couple of years. And yeah, so I did that for a little while.
The things you learn on Facebook Lives about someone that you've already known for a year or more.
That's it. So yeah, I was in a little band. Still got the kid at home. It's packed away.
Yeah.
But yeah, did that.
Okay.
And then, life does its swings and roundabouts and all sorts of twists and turns. And then, yeah, eventually, probably about 10 years later, found yoga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where? Because there's bugger all yoga out here. So where?
I was in the city. I was working in the city at the time, living and working up there.
Yeah.
I was in my early 20s. Yeah, I was in my early 20s, and I was like, most early 20s in the city, you're just, having a good time and having a few drinks after work and just kind of living the good life. And that really triggered a bit of anxiety. It really triggered not a really great relationship to myself, I suppose. I just was kind of just in that cycle of just going to work, having a few drinks, partying, nothing too hectic, but just I knew it wasn't really for me. And a couple of things just, I got to a point where I was like, okay, need to make a bit of a shift. And a girlfriend of mine was like, oh, there's this group on for yoga. Let's go. Yeah. And I tried yoga before years ago and did gym yoga, and I was a bit like, this is boring, and I'm just standing around, and it's just a bit like, I was not interested at all. But I was like, well, $50 for a month, let's just give it a go. This is, going back 15 something years ago. And I was like, yeah, give it a go. And then I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And it was a hot class. It was a hot yoga class. And it was hard, and it was sweaty, and the flows were actually quite fast, and probably now more intense than what I would, definitely more than I would practice now. But at the time, it was exactly what I needed. It felt like a dance. I felt like I was flowing. And then it just shifted. I couldn't go out late if I was going to get up for 6 a.m. yoga. So life shifted.
Okay, so a lot of people have experienced what you just talked about, that you've tried it and it was boring.
Yeah.
So 3 tips for somebody who's had that experience, considering that if they don't try it, they're missing out on a potentially lifetime changing opportunity.
So if you've only got a limited studio access, try a different teacher. Like, same studio, different teacher, try it out. Not every teacher is going to resonate with you. So try a different teacher. If you don't love that, try a different style of yoga. Some people are really, really thrive on that dynamic hot flow class.
Me.
Some people really love a slow yin class and really need that to nourish what they're, if they're particularly high stress, high anxiety kind of person, doing a hot flow class is going to probably build up more of that, and is going to, some people know, but some people it might aggravate it. So for them, they need a slower, gentler practice where they just tune back into the breath. So if you're trying a dynamic flow and you're like, that's not for me, try something a bit gentler. If that still doesn't work, try another studio, one like here. So basically it's like, so try different teacher.
Try different teacher.
Try different style.
Try different style. And lastly, try a different studio.
Yeah.
3 tips.
Yeah.
So simple.
So simple.
So simple. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't flow then where you first started, because they weren't around. What was your first ever yoga studio? Or this one where you got the group on for?
It was Body Mind Life with Mel McLaughlin.
Body Mind Life. Big shout out to Body Mind Life. We got teachers who are Body Mind. You Body Mind Life trained? No, we've got teachers on staff who are Body Mind Life trained. I myself had a membership. I probably had a 12-month membership a couple of years back at Body Mind Life, doing long haul from here to the city. Love it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Nice. Props to Body Mind Life.
Yeah.
For introducing you to the jam that got you going.
That's it.
And so then, what made you walk through the doors of a brand new studio and go, you need a receptionist and it needs to be me?
Well, firstly, I never wanted to be a yoga teacher. I was adamant that I didn't want to be one.
Yeah, everything that you say, I'm just like, yep, that's me. Yep, that's me. Yep, that's me.
Yeah.
Yep, that's me. I was outcast. I was a dancer. I went into the grunge. I was a drummer. Fucking.
There you go. Samesies.
We're like brother and sister from another fucking life or something.
Yeah. So that was it. I didn't want to be a teacher. I really was really firm on didn't want it, because that was my safety net. That was my practice. That was my safe space.
Okay.
But then a good friend, and I never went to uni. I just kind of went from job to job, or career to career over a few years, and was just following the charm, which I highly recommend anyway. Following the charm. For me, uni wasn't for me at the time. Coming out of school, not for everyone, but definitely for some people. Not going to say no to if you want to go to uni. But for me, I didn't really know. I got to a point where I was a bit lost. Didn't really know what I wanted. And a girlfriend of mine was like, just go work at a yoga studio for a couple of months, figure out your next steps. Go somewhere that is no stress, just somewhere that you enjoy, and figure out what you're going to do next. And so I was like, great advice.
Yeah.
So I, because I've always, I wanted to make sure that I kept a living. I didn't want to just not have a job, but I didn't like where I was at and I needed a shift. So walked in, found an ad for a new studio, a new gym. They were looking for trainers, and I was like, well, you're a new place, you're going to need you're going to need a receptionist.
Yeah.
And just went from there, and just bullied them until they let me have a job.
So you weren't a teacher at the time?
Wasn't a teacher at the time.
Wow.
And it was only...
You're just a student of the practice.
Student of the practice, wanted to be involved and immersed in it.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love that. And this was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So Flow, I was introduced to Flow 2017, I think. That playlist that we've got on the Spotify from Flow After Dark.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction to Flow.
That's
I was
pretty
like,
good one to have.
and I was like blown away. It's Kate, right? Mm-hmm. Kate's up on stage. So Flow After Dark is a silent yoga disco. So you've got the headphones on. Kate's up on stage with her amazing voice, just whispering like sweet nothings into my ear. I'm like, oh my God, who is this woman? I need to meet her. We go through the whole thing. And then I'm like, I'm going. And then I see NRL players walking through the joint. I see Andrew Johns go over, grab her, kiss her, and then like she just swamped and I'm like, okay. So she owns Flow, and she's dating an NRL player. Well, I don't know. No, I don't think he was playing by then. By that stage, no, he would have been retired by then. But yeah, so big time stuff. But Flow's not just a yoga studio. No, so
it's a holistic space.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yoga, fitness, meditation, cardio,
like powerlifting.
Not so hectic as that.
No.
But more mindful. And we've even in the last 12 months have shifted more towards like your reformer Pilates, your run club, a little more mindful, even in the weights, even in your cardio stuff. It's a lot more mindful across the board.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what did the journey for you look like then, starting on as a receptionist?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like, where was Kate in her journey at that point in time?
Yeah, so she just was a fresh business owner. So
right.
Ben and Kate both co-own the studio. Ben
Yep.
Lucas, he owned a bunch of vision studios
Cool.
around the place. He sold that to go in collaboration with Kate. So
Yep.
Kate was brand newish to business, like to being a business owner here. And so I kind of just...
So you've gone to them, you've created your own receptionist role.
Yeah.
You're practicing, but you're not a teacher.
Yeah.
And somehow you've been there for 10 years and helped them build a business to what it is today.
Yeah, I mean, they've done all the hard work. I've just been there fluffing around them, but no.
I know you though. You provide lots of insight from a client, from a student perspective.
Yeah, I'm very person focused, and I really care for wherever I work and want to connect, the back end or the business to the customer experience. So for me, I can joke around and say that I fluffed about, but really I saw an incredible thing, and Ben and Kate have been amazing to me over 10 years. And I want to kind of continue to bring people to people to finding yoga and finding this experience. So, and it's the same here. Everyone's really incredible through here, and I just want to
get it all
everyone
happening,
together.
make it explode, make it blow up. When did you become a teacher?
It was in 2015. 2015, I did my
Me
training.
too.
There you go. Same as 2015.
What month?
May, June, I think. Same? Yeah.
Started June, yeah.
Yeah. I think it was May, June, I can't remember. But yeah.
So how did you go from I don't want to be a yoga teacher to I'm going to do certification?
Yeah, so it was at Flow, and having chatted to a few of the teachers there, I started off with the mindset of this is my practice, this is my safe space, I don't want to make a career out of it, to this is something so important and so special and so necessary, I need to let everyone know about it.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
You know, it is my safe space and it is my thing that brings me out of whatever I feel, but it's something that I think, it's a practice that I think everyone needs to experience.
Yeah.
And that's what brought me to become a teacher.
It's a role of service
Absolutely.
to others, first and foremost. It's a role of service to others. But do you take away, do you realise that, let me rephrase that. Do you take away benefit from being in a role of service to others?
100%. So as a teacher and with the hours that I do, I don't get to practice as much as I used to or as much as I would like to. But when I teach and when I am there in a room full of people moving and breathing together, 100% I receive benefits from that.
What do you think that it is?
Collective consciousness is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collective consciousness.
It's when, and you can feel it and you can see it when the room drops in. You can feel it, and as a student, you'd feel it as well. You know, you can hear the person next to you breathing, or you're moving in sync with someone without even realizing that you're doing that. You're holding space for someone if they're going into an inversion and you're not at a stage to do that, but you're sitting there and you're breathing and you're minding that space, like it's still that same like space holding. It's pretty magical.
It is. Would you, we use this word a lot as well, the yoga world uses this word a lot. I kind of refrain from it a little bit, but intention. Because I get the experience that you're talking about as well. I can be having a shit day. I can come in and teach a class and not even practice, and I'll walk out of here like, oh.
Yeah.
Do you see the resemblance of talking about a specific philosophy and teaching it to others, in the whole concept of creating intention for self?
Yes. But I also think that it's bringing that focus to a singular point, which we do with breath and drishti. So you can't, it's impossible to have a bad thought, a bad day, if your mind is focused on something completely different. If you're only focused on your breath, your brain can only focus on the breath.
Yes.
If you're actually 100% focused on the breath, you can't be thinking about something else. You can't, if you're not present, like we actually can't multitask. We can do a lot of things average at the same time, but we can't properly 100% multitask. Because if you're not focused on one thing, you're focused on nothing. So I think that by having that single, like, yes, having the intention and having, speaking of a philosophy or to a concept in a class will definitely bring me back for sure. But I think it's also just coming back to breath. As simple as it is, just coming back to breath.
Okay. So for those who go, okay, Jess, cool. I'm just going to close my eyes and breathe. And then the world up here is still fucking pots and pans. It's like, how do they get from one place to the other? Because I absolutely agree with you. And I use that. I use that, what you've just spoken about. The mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. So for those out there who try closing their eyes and breathing and focusing on their breath, but the world is still fucking pots and pans in their head, what's the journey? What's missing?
It could potentially be a physical practice then, without if being still and closing your eyes down creates a louder noise, maybe it's the embodiment, like it's the physical embodiment practice. So I have someone that comes to a class of mine who is dealing with some things, and she will lie down in shavasana the whole time and visualize the practice. And she'll come to class and look like there's a lot going on. You can see that she's, physically, emotionally dealing with a lot of things. She'll come down and she'll lie down and she will lay the whole class in shavasana and visualize it. I will see her at the end of the class and a weight has been physically lifted off her, which is incredible. That will work for her. That will not work for everyone.
Yeah.
So for some people, it is the physical embodiment, and that's where our yoga practice and the physical asana is what's really going to work for them. And it will be a challenge. Like it's not an easy thing. If you've got your mind really loud telling you multiple different things at multiple different times, it's not going to be necessarily a peaceful or joyful practice to start with, because you're clearing up the shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How does time play a role in all of this?
What do you mean?
Like, do things get better with time?
100%.
Is there, what does consistency look like?
I mean, of course, the more we do something, the more we clear it out, right?
Yeah.
So if we only do a yoga practice once every 6 months, it's that one time in 6 months you'll feel the benefits, but for the rest of that time, perhaps the other things will build up. We can look at the yoga practice as a clearing out, perhaps. So when you're coming into a yoga practice 2, 3, 4 times a week, that's when we start to chip off the top layers. The more we come, we chip off lower and lower layers, and there's less opportunity or less time for more shit to come on top and stack on, because we're constantly clearing and making space. And I guess that's what happened with me. I guess that when I first started practicing yoga, you said at the beginning about me smiling and being really bubbly all the time. There was a point where I couldn't look at people in the eye, and I would be in tears constantly. And even when I was at flow, I'd have the kind of joke around that I was always, as much as I was bubbly, I was in tears.
It was one or the other.
I'll be in tears, and then a minute later I'll be fine again.
Yeah, okay.
But we had stuff, and there was times it was really uncomfortable, and I couldn't look at people in the eye. I couldn't speak up, and I couldn't be in front of people. But just showing up and rolling out my mat day after day, I started to feel a little bit of this fog lift and a little bit of the heaviness lift. So the consistency is, and it could, for some people, it could take a month. Some people, it could take a little bit longer. So, and I think that's, as humans, we want to see results really quickly.
We do. We're so used to the instant gratification of today's society. You want a new TV, you've bought one within 3 minutes on your phone, and it can turn up the next day. You know what I mean? Fuck, we don't know how to wait. We don't know. and the information super age that we're in has meant that our levels of patience have diminished.
Yeah. Yeah. So, our practice can sometimes, I guess, getting a little heavier here, but like our practice isn't always love and light and always sweetness.
Yeah.
But the more we do it, the better we're going to feel.
So a question for you on the days that you were like, okay, practice is just too much. What was it that you said, or what was it that you did that helped you maintain the consistency?
I became okay with being comfortable that if I needed to rest, I'd rest.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
So if we're going through a flow 2 or 3 times and I'm like, I can't catch up, my breath is so rapid and it's making me like almost hyperventilate, or I feel like my limbs feel really heavy today and I just can't keep up. I'm like, I'm just going to drop into child's pose.
Yeah.
And that honoring of where you're at is so important.
And
just show up.
Just show up, because there's that collective consciousness of the room, like you spoke about. As a teacher, we get it.
Yeah.
And as a student, even if you turn up and you don't practice, you still get it. The vibration of people's intention and their movement, and the words of a teacher can be so soothing, like a guided meditation. You can turn up to a vinyasa class, not practice at all, but the guy has a guided meditation quality to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, if anyone, especially in the One Big Heart community, if anyone does come to a yoga class of mine, like if you need to rest, like lay on down. I will, and as teachers, we don't, I think we're happy for you to honor your body and happy for you to honor your space where you're at, that if you need to take it, this is a space for you guys.
There's a level of encouragement, but without any level of expectation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is so different from everything else that you do.
100%.
You know, like you go to CrossFit, or you go to whatever it is, and like there's encouragement in all environments, but there's all, generally speaking, I feel that a lot of environments come with a lot of expectation, and people aren't used to then not walking into an environment that doesn't have a level of expectation.
Yeah. It's like
people feel like they need to apologise to me at the front desk before they start class, because they know that today's not going to be so big. I'm like, never apologise to me. You do you, and you never need to explain anything to me. If I know you, and if I see you take on less of a practice than what you normally would, I just trust that you know what the fuck's going on and you're doing that because that's you.
I remember hearing something once which I thought was a really nice way with that, and it's like, we show up 100% every day, right? We show up 100% every day, but what your 100% is day to day is different.
Yes.
So your 100% one day could be doing all of the vinyasas, all of the advancements, jumping through headstand and doing all sorts of, exciting, elaborate things. But your 100% the next day might be that you can do one round of vinyasa and you drop into child's pose until we go into the next flow. And that's okay as well. But it's 100% of where you're at.
And that's not just that's not just a mental thing, right? That's a really clear-cut example. If you do all that one day, your body might be sore as fuck the next day, Yes. Like if you go to the gym and you squat 120 kilos today, you ain't going there and squatting 120 kilos again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're going to go stretch it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your 100% varies every day. I love it. Now, I'm conscious of time today because I know that you've got to get to some places, and we had some technical difficulties with the setup. But let's jump topics straight up. Recently engaged.
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
How recently?
October. Yeah.
2022. How long had you two lovebirds been seeing each other?
We were a COVID romance.
Yeah, you were. COVID romance.
We were a COVID romance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, little online love. Started the first lockdown, and all kind of blossomed from there.
And your man, forgive me, I can't remember his name
Ian.
right now. Ian.
Yeah.
Is he a yogi? I've met him at one of our gatherings. Is he a yogi?
He is.
He is?
Yeah, so he used to practice yoga a fair bit before we met. And still dabbles a little bit now. So
Love it.
yeah, he's had his own yoga journey before we met. So that's really nice. He gets it. Yeah.
And then I think a really important question is, how do you see yoga playing out in your relationship? Whether he was a yogi or not, but like, how do you, personally for you, how do you see the benefits of yoga flowing into your relationship?
If I don't practice yoga or meditate, I'm a bit of a bitch.
You? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I become, and I notice it, I become a lot more irritable. I become a lot more reactive. I become less patient. Yeah, big. And when you don't really notice it as much when you're single, because if you're in a bad mood, you can kind of hide in your cave, and no one really at the cave you're
no one calls you out on your shit.
No one calls you out on it
because no one's seeing it necessarily.
Yeah, you can hide away for a couple of days if you're in a bad mood or if you're having a down day, and it's okay. People, you don't have that partner that's showing that mirror up against and being like, yeah, that's probably not, that's not really the Jess that you are.
So we can factually say yoga improves relationships.
We can, yeah.
Yeah, we can.
It will change your relationships 100%.
Yeah. I love that. And simply by becoming more aware of how you are, is that what it is?
And becoming, yoga for me helps me become the best version of myself, and when you're the best person that you can be, or at least aware of some of your downfalls, or where you can be a little more reactive, then you can show up as a better partner. If you're not being kind to yourself or the people around you, then you're not really going to be a really nice person to be around. You're not really going to be a nice partner if you're, so it reminds you of the things. For me, it brings me back to being myself, but it also, coming to a class and hearing the philosophies or the Dharma talks during the class, I'm like, oh yeah, I probably could be, behaving a little bit differently.
Could be a bit more of that.
Yeah.
Could be a bit more of that.
So.
Yeah. And in the yoga world and in the wellness world in general, there's this terminology thrown around like self-care practices, right? Yoga is a self-care practice. Meditation is a self-care practice. And I was brought to my attention through my training that it's no one else's responsibility to ensure my happiness.
Yeah.
My happiness, my fulfillment in life is entirely my own responsibility.
Yeah.
And so the practice of the physical practice, the mental practice, the breath practice, for me, it comes down to tending to my own garden.
Yeah.
If you don't mow your lawns and the weeds fucking get out of control and the grass grows out, all of that, and you're looking at that every day, all of that is just continuing to take you into further states of reactivity, discontent, etc., yeah? The mind is the same.
Yeah.
You got to tend to your own garden.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I love that. And I see yoga help in my relationship too, not just with Gemma, but with my sister, with my, I think my relationship with my mum and my sister has changed drastically over the years of me practicing yoga.
You understand more on, if you are having conflict with someone, you start to understand more of perhaps what they're going through, or perhaps where they're coming from, or their triggers, and if you're not aware I mean, when you become aware of, the reason why people are doing things, other people or yourself, you can become a lot more understanding and less triggered by it and less affected by it. So you can go, yeah, they were, this relationship with whoever is, going through a little bit of a challenge. But I can see why they're acting a certain way. And it doesn't mean that necessarily is okay, but it also, you can approach it from a much more loving or a much more understanding place.
By not taking it so personally.
Yeah.
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 Hells yeah.
Yeah.
Hells yeah. You gotta go,
Wow,
don't you?
That flew, didn't it?
There's so much more that I wanted to dive into.
Might have to do a part 2.
Yeah, we might do a part 2. If there was one thing that you wanted to say to the people before you went today, Jess?
Practice yoga.
Practice,
Show up,
practice.
just roll out your mat. Especially now as it gets a little bit cooler, it's going to be a little bit harder to get out of bed. The doona is very warm.
Yeah, and the little voice comes up.
Yeah.
So what do you say to it?
Just roll your mat out. You'll feel better. You'll feel better after a practice.
Thank you so much for today. I wish we had more time.
My pleasure.
That's us, lounging around, the One Big Heart Show. Have a blessed day, friends. And you'll see us again in this space very, very soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Mwah.
Thank you.
Thank you.